So it was recently announced that Ennio Morricone, my absolute favourite film composer and the man who I consider to be undoubtedly the best film composer of all time, has passed away. The Italian was 91 at the time of his death, and he died in hospital in Rome after having fractured his femur in a fall a few days prior. Morricone was famous for his music that he provided for spaghetti westerns, such as his legendary partnership with my favourite film director, Sergio Leone, which included The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, whose music has become synonymous with the Wild West, and Once Upon a Time in the West, A Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More. Ennio Morricone was someone snubbed again and again by Hollywood, not winning an Oscar during his entire 60-plus year career, though being nominated 5 times. He finally got an honorary Oscar in 2007, and then won an actual one for composing the score to Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight in 2016, which it turned out was his last major work. At 87 years of age at the time, this made him the oldest Oscar winner in history, but by that point I don't think anybody cared, especially himself, about him winning Oscars because his body of work was so legendary, so stacked with incredible works, that it became a joke that he didn't win an Oscar for so long, and the Academy comes off looking worse for it. Morricone did the music for so many films that even the man himself can't remember how many movies and TV shows he's done music for. According to IMDb, the man has an astonishing 520 original works to his name, and that's not including music he's made away from movies and such. Ennio, known as the Maestro, leaves behind a legacy in film that will never be matched. The amount of influence he has had on other composers is paramount, and the amount of times his music has made film fans wonder, cry, laugh and shudder in fear will continue onwards as people watch and rewatch his films. Every time Morricone scored a movie, you could guarantee that the music would be brilliant, that there would be something interesting, something new and daring that he would try out, even so late in his career with works like 2013's The Best Offer. I can't tell you how many times I've lied in bed and put on one of his tracks, and they're so full of life that you just end up daydreaming an entire lifetime through his music, pretending you're in some cool western or something. He's the only film composer that could convince me to watch a movie, no matter how obscure or offbeat, simply because his name was on the credits. His score would elevate mediocre films into brilliant ones, as best put by director Edgar Wright in a tribute when he said that Morricone could make an average movie into a must-see, a good movie into art, and a great movie into legend. It's ridiculous just how talented the man was. You could even take one movie, say The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, and you could take separate tracks from the film, like say the main theme, Ecstasy of Gold and the trio, and put them in 3 different films, and you could very much have 3 Oscar nominations right there. Many other film composers, like the brilliant John Williams, have written iconic themes for iconic movies, but Morricone's music made his films iconic. There are so many movies, The Mission for example, that would not have at all been revered as much as they are, had it not been for Ennio and his contributions to the film. It's astonishing that Morricone was still actively working into his late 80s, doing movies and even concerts around the world. He had actually retired from working in film about a year ago, if I remember correctly, and said that he would only make music for filmmaker Giuseppe Tornatore, another one of my favourite film directors, the man who made Cinema Paradiso and the already mentioned The Best Offer. Tornatore actually has a documentary on Morricone coming out called The Glance of Music. I don't know what the release date is, but it's been in the works for a few years now. There's going to be in-depth interviews with Morricone himself and numerous people in the film industry on his works. I imagine the release might be fast-tracked to honour his memory if the film is finished, though it's a shame the man himself couldn't see it before he went. Morricone was actually classmates with Sergio Leone before the two started making movies together. Leone once called Morricone's music indispensable, and he would often have Morricone score a film before he even shot a movie, an unconventional approach, and then he would film the movie around the music. On Morricone's death, fellow film composer Hans Zimmer, probably the most famous film composer alive right now, and the composer for films like Inception and Gladiator, said, "Ennio was an icon, and icons just don't go away. Icons are forever." It really has taken me by surprise as he was still touring. I saw him about a year ago. He seemed strong. He was conducting at the O2. He was a major influence on me. The first movie I ever saw was Once Upon a Time in the West. I heard the music and saw those images and I said, that's what I want to do. Zimmer also said that Morricone's music was always outstanding and done with great emotional fortitude and great intellectual thought. I think most film fans know of Morricone, even if they don't know too many of his works. He isn't as mainstream in Hollywood as guys like John Williams or Danny Elfman. In fact, he actually rejected opportunities to move to Hollywood. But for those wanting to hear of Morricone's works, yes, many of the Hollywood movies he's done the music for have been great, but a lot of Morricone's very best works are in films hidden away, just too obscure, and some are downright terrible. If you listen to the music of his more famous films, maybe his westerns, you might think, yeah, this guy is amazing. But if you manage to track down some of his lesser known works and listen to enough of them, I'm sure you'll agree that there was no one on Ennio Morricone's level. In fact, Morricone himself addressed the western thing when he said, "I am disturbed when people think about me as a specialist for westerns. They are only a relatively small percentage of the music I've written." Some of the man's best works, and this is going to be a long list here, include A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West, Duck You Sucker, The Big Gundown, Death Rides a Horse, Face to Face, Navajo, The Great Silence, Two Mules for Sister Sarah, My Name is Nobody, Companeros, A Pistol for Ringo, The Mercenary, The Return of Ringo, The Hateful Eight. Those are all westerns, by the way. There's La Piovra, an Italian crime TV drama show. There's The Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion, John Carpenter's The Thing, Once Upon a Time in America, The Professional, The Battle of Algiers, The Mission, Sacco and Vanzetti, Cinema Paradiso, Days of Heaven, Malena, Casualties of War, The Sicilian Clan, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, The Exorcist 2, The Best Offer, Bugsy, The Untouchables, Frantic, State of Grace, In the Line of Fire, U-Turn, A Pure Formality, In the Name of Love, Violent City, Ripley's Game, The Burglars, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, The Most Beautiful Wife, Salo, 1900, The Legend of 1900, Mission to Mars, the 1997 remake of Lolita, the 1990 version of Hamlet, Disclosure, Burn, Barria, The Unknown Woman, The Star Maker, Wolf, Orca, A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, The Cat o' Nine Tails, the 1998 version of The Phantom of the Opera, White Dog, and Nightmare Castle. There's many more, but that itself is a staggering filmography filled with some of the very best film soundtracks you'll ever hear, so varied as well, composed by one man, the maestro Ennio Morricone. Many of his lesser known works were put into movies by major fans of his, like Quentin Tarantino, so you'll also hear Morricone's music in the likes of Kill Bill and Inglourious Bastards. Morricone has left us with such a vast body of work that none of us will ever be able to complete. He will remain one of the titans of cinema. For updates on that Morricone documentary by Giuseppe Tornatore, consider subscribing to the channel, and thanks for watching.